What are the creepiest, scariest stories you've ever heard?
This question was posted in r/ask Reddit over a decade ago. I stumbled across it years later, buried in the furthest corners of the internet. Hidden here, a user shared a story where he had taken a solo trip to his family's cabin, and while he was up there, strange things began to happen to him. This is the time a redditor was stalked by something in the woods. I've shared this before, but it still messes with me to this day. I'll be the first to say that all of this stuff could have taken place in my head. The mind is a freaky thing, and it can play some pretty insane tricks on you. Whenever I was scared as a kid, my dad had always told me that in life, you should not be scared of ghosts. Fear the living, because they can actually hurt you. When I was in my late teens, I came into some money after my father passed away, and I received an inheritance from him. My parents owned a cabin up in Oregon by Mount Bachelor, but my mom couldn't afford to keep it by herself, so we were planning on selling it in about a month. Until then though, it would just be sitting empty, so I saw this as a chance to get away for a while and clear my head. I took some time off work, packed up my snowboarding gear, grabbed my dog, and headed up in my dad's car. The first 2 days at the cabin were normal, peaceful even. I spent my days playing with my dog, snowboarding, and using my PlayStation. I had already stocked up on food, so I was pretty much a shut-in. The cabin was 2 stories, with a living room, guest bedroom, and a small kitchen downstairs. Upstairs had 2 bedrooms, one of which had a walkout balcony attached to it. I spent most of my time downstairs in the living room and kitchen. I never ventured into the other rooms, and I always kept the doors leading into them shut. Open doors to dark rooms always freaked me out. However, on the 3rd day is when things started to get weird. A heavy snowfall had kept me inside most of the day, which I didn't mind. I was happy to just watch movies with my dog midnight. Sometime around noon, I took him outside and I found something unusual, footprints, in the snow. They circled the cabin, and more chilling was that they appeared fresh. Someone, or something, had just been here 20 to 30 minutes ago. What's even more unsettling is the nearest cabins were around a block away. I had passed by them earlier that week, and from what I could see, no one should have been staying at them. Still, I somehow convinced myself that someone must be staying in one of those cabins. Why someone would ever come this close to mine, though, I had no idea. I went inside trying to shake this uneasy feeling creeping up on me. That night, as I lay in bed, Midnight's ears suddenly perked up. He listened intently and ran downstairs. I lay in bed listening. I could hear him moving around downstairs, pacing. 5 minutes passed before he ran back upstairs and gave me the signal that he needed to go outside. We both went downstairs and stepped into the cold night. I waited for him to do his thing, but he didn't pee. Instead, as soon as we were outside, he yanked on his leash, dragging me into the dense trees, exactly where the prints were found outside earlier. His nose also kept sweeping across the floor like he was desperately searching for something he lost. He was sniffing along the side of the house until he stopped. Silence fell over us. He was looking at the roof. When he realized that I wasn't going to go up there, he sat and just stared into the darkness, locked onto something I couldn't see. My dog had never acted like this, and it was creeping me out. I thought that maybe there was an animal out there that he just wanted to chase, but standing out here in the open was making me feel uneasy, like something was watching us. I tugged on his leash and let him back inside. We both headed upstairs, and I went back to bed. Around half an hour later was when I heard it. Footsteps. It took me a second to figure out where they were coming from. Something was on the roof. It was only a series of around 6 steps. Maybe a pine cone had fallen on the roof, I told myself. But the sounds were too distinct and spaced apart exactly like footsteps. I held my breath, waiting, listening. Midnight also heard the noise and was quick to run to the balcony screen door, expecting for me to let him out. I still don't know why I did this. I guess I considered myself to be a tough guy, or maybe I was just young, but I grabbed my coat and shoes along with my flashlight and went outside onto the balcony. I flicked on the flashlight and started canvassing the roof. Nothing, and the snow on top was undisturbed. I let out a slow breath of relief and began to calm down. Then, my eyes adjusted to the darkness. In a tree just beyond the balcony, about 20 feet away, Something was crouched between two branches. A man, or something, sat there motionless. I had no idea what I was looking at, but I could feel its stare. Midnight paced behind me, barking wildly, but the figure didn't move. Every instinct was telling me to run. Part of me still considered shining the light on that thing though. I didn't. Instead, I slowly walked backwards into the cabin, Midnight close behind. I locked the door, and only then, with a barrier between me and that thing, did I finally shine the light. It was gone. I shut the curtains and retreated back to bed, but later that night, I heard it again. A soft tapping, echo from the balcony door. It was slow and deliberate, like fingers tapping on glass. It wouldn't stop all night. Midnight seemed to stare at the door, but he was terrified to go near it now. The scariest part was that I had a feeling like something was inviting me to open the door, but in my head, I kept hearing my dad's voice telling me to stay in bed and not to do it. I listened, passing out eventually from exhaustion. When I woke up the next morning, everything seemed normal, but I don't think you could ever convince me to go back there. That's the end of his story, and I think one of the interesting things is that it doesn't seem to be a unique experience. I've come across other stories of people hearing footsteps on their roof at night without any reasonable explanation. I don't know what he saw that night, but if it was a person, that might be the most terrifying possibility of all.